And welcome to Flyers Game Day. That's Brian Smith. I'm Jason Myrtetus. It's back to back as the Flyers are back at it tonight. Quick turnaround before a couple of days off between games. They won't be back till Saturday to take on the Kings at Wells Fargo. But tonight at USB, is it Center, Bry?
UBS Arena.
I totally screwed that up.
USB is the thing that plugs into your computer.
That's right.
UBS is a financial services company or something like that. I don't know.
Not to be confused with UPS.
And then you have UPS, which is a package company in the Universal Power Supply, right?
Yes, United Parcel Service and United.
Yes.
Yeah. We're going to get it here eventually. Flyers and Islanders tonight, third time in how many days? What, 13 days is it?
9, actually.
9 days?
It feels like 13 days with the way things have been going, doesn't it?
But well, that's a different number. That 13 number, isn't it?
Count it out, and it was only this is day number 9 for this particular grouping. It was supposed to be a little more spread out. Flyers were supposed to play the Islanders back on November the 30th, but that was postponed because of COVID issues with the Islanders. So it ended up being a back-to-back last week, and then this one here tonight, and then they're going to play again in April, and that will wrap up the series. So it's weird. You look at it right now. The Islanders and the Flyers have the same number of points, I think, but the Islanders are 500, and the Flyers are very not. They actually have the same points percentage as right outside the playoff spot, but because they played 9 fewer games than the Flyers have, it's
8.
A little bit misleading. 8, is it? Okay.
Yeah, they've played 34, Flyers 42, each with 34 points, each a point back of the Devils, who've only played 40 games but 35 points, and Columbus has 37 points through 39 games. So let's start out tonight on a positive note.
Okay.
You have one? It's tough to do. I do have one, a single. Keith Yandel going to break the Iron Man streak tonight. Tied it last night, Doug Jarvis's streak, 35 years. And he tied it last night. Did you hear the availability that he had after the game last night?
We were having we were doing post game, and I was reading bits and pieces of it. I have not gone back and listened to it. No.
I recommend you do. I put it in Flyers Daily. And just because of how uncomfortable he is talking about himself.
Yes, he's comfortable doing absolutely anything, talking about absolutely anything else, pretty much.
Yep.
But not himself.
Yeah, you could talk about lobsters and sewers. He'd be more anything, right? I don't know why I thought of that, but
there's a great story out there. I think it's NHL.com looking at, they went back and talked to all of his teammates over the years, and, about how, why he's so well liked around the league and things like that. And, it's a really good read if you get to go check it out. But it's clear that he does not have any trouble talking in any other circumstance other than about himself.
Like last night, it was so stunning to me. Like, every time I've talked to him for Flyers Daily or whatever, intermissions, anything, it's very good and it's comfortable. But as soon as everything was about him last night, you could just tell how uncomfortable he was. He kind of just repeated the same answer to every question, even though the questions varied. It was weird.
Yeah. I mean, and I think, that's more common than you'd think, really. I mean, there's guys like him and hockey players in general, they don't like to focus on themselves really under much of any circumstance. It's always, and it's the culture of the sport, so to speak, just from the standpoint of from the time you're 10 years old, you're being told you carry your own bag. They don't want your parents carrying your bag into the rink. You're carrying your own bag. And then, not too long after that on boys teams anyway, they're wearing suits to games. And, it's something you learn from the very beginning. So it doesn't surprise me that he doesn't like to talk about himself, but it did surprise me a little bit just in terms of how, to hear that he was really that uncomfortable with it.
Yeah, you got to listen to the audio that Joe sent out. It just really kind of stuck out to me how uncomfortable he is in that, talking about himself and his achievement, and while he's honored and everything, and and I'm sure it means a ton to him when both players around the league, his teammates, and people that have played the game tell him how much they respect the fact that, he got this record, which is just it's an incredible record. It really
Yeah.
is. And just how, because the sport's all about the collective. It's about the team. And that's like the thing you're taught at, carry your own bag, and it's never about you. It's always about the team. Like you never hear when a Stanley Cup is awarded, a player say, I, it's
No,
always
yeah.
we.
Yeah,
And
you
that's
only
the
hear
thing.
"I" when things go wrong.
Yeah.
That's the crazy thing. You only
To
hear
take it
"I."
off the team.
Yeah. When somebody screws up or something like that, you hear "I," even when it's not really their fault.
Yeah.
And the everything else, it's just that big group mentality.
The sport never lets one person get too big for their britches, no matter how much better they might be than someone else. And it's a way of kind of policing ego in the sport. And, it's not like that in other sports. It's another unique thing to the sport of hockey that the players never get away with that. And that a guy that can be one of the most depth players on the team can have as big of an influence on a dressing room as the best player on the team, and sometimes more.
Yeah, yeah. And really it comes from the fact that so much of hockey is just played as a 5-man unit. It's in basketball, you give the ball to the point guard. Point guard brings it up the floor, and then you're usually calling a play for a specific individual. Probably some guys more often than others. Football, snap the ball to the quarterback, goes from there. Everything goes to the quarterback. There's very little of that in the hockey world. You don't draw up a lot of plays for one specific person. It's a rare occasion when you get a guy like a Connor McDavid or a Sidney Crosby or something like that, where you can, design your entire offense around one person. It's just the nature of the game, just because, again, so much of the sport happens by, almost complete accident. They're trying to do certain things, but in the grand scheme of things, a lot of it is chance a little bit. So, that also lends itself to the overall, nature of things.
And there's a very even playing field a lot of times too. Like for Connor McDavid, who's got this just insane speed and skill. Like the play you draw for him is, hey guys, let's take it behind our net, let him come around the net and take it, and then let's just go down and see if there even is going to be a rebound.
Right. Yeah, it's really kind of, and that's why it's so remarkable when you see it happen. There's very few people that could just basically skate up the ice at will and get through a bunch of people. It just doesn't happen very often. So, and that to me is what makes the sport so enjoyable at least to work in. We don't have much in the way of egos or anything like that. You don't have a lot of me, 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 me. You just you have guys usually working toward a common good, and quick to credit others.
Absolutely. Flyers going to have an NHL debut tonight for a player they grabbed as a free agent, wasn't drafted. He's the brother of Rasmus Sandin of the Toronto Maple Leafs. It is Linus Sandin. Is it Linus or Linus?
I believe it's Linus, but
I thought so.
Somebody might correct me before the end of the night, but I thought it was Linus.
Yeah, when I had him on Flyers Daily when they signed him, I called him Linus and he responded. So we'll go with that. He's not a young guy, so he's already built man. He played in the Swedish Elite League over in Sweden, obviously, and then has played the last two seasons, the 2021 season and the 21-22 seasons for the Phantoms. Got a total of 39 games, 11 goals and 6 assists. So 17 points in those 39 games. He's 25 years old, from Uppsala, Sweden, 6 foot, 203 pounder. And he's going to get his NHL debut tonight and see what he can contribute to this Flyers lineup as he comes in, and so does Connor Bunnaman.
Yeah, it was they were called up yesterday, and they couldn't really they didn't want to use them just from the standpoint of the Phantoms had played back to back the 2 nights before, and you don't want to take two guys like that, especially somebody making his NHL debut. I mean, they're used to playing 3-3 in the American Hockey League, but you don't want to take a guy in that situation and throw him into a 3-3 at the NHL level. That's just, that would
Plus, you
not
had
have been ideal.
yeah. Plus, the Flyers had a back-to-back. So, what
Right.
is he going to
Yeah.
play 4-4?
Exactly. Yeah.
You know?
So something had to give there. So that's one of the reasons the Flyers went 11-7 last night, and put Nick Seeler up front, just because they needed to get through all this particular situation so they could get some guys in there. But he's a guy that was kind of coveted back in 2020. The Everything was a little bit weird back then, of course, but he was a free agent. He was undrafted. He was one of those guys that kind of comes along and doesn't necessarily draw attention out of Europe, but then is able to kind of better his game a little bit over there in the Swedish Elite League. You're playing not necessarily NHL level hockey, but it's good hockey. But you're playing against grown men as opposed to being a 20-year-old going in there playing against 16, 17-year-olds and juniors. So that usually kind of brings your game along a little bit more quickly than if you're a 24-year-old college player or something like that. So he started in Peter Forsberg's program about 10 years ago as a junior player, and then he bounced over across to a couple other Swedish teams before the Flyers signed him. And then, again, like everything else, kind of got caught up a little bit in the whole COVID situation. Started last season in Sweden before coming over when the AHL started, and then this year I think he's been he's only played 13 games, so either COVID or injuries. I'm not sure what's held him out of the lineup, but it's still not completely normal in the American Hockey League right now. So be good to get a look at him, see what he can do. Flyers certainly don't have anybody else to put in the lineup right now, so just go for it and see what happens.
Yeah, and he'll make his NHL debut tonight. Another Flyer to do that. We saw a bunch of Flyers last year make their NHL debuts, whether it was Cam York or Igor Zamola and others. And he'll make his NHL debut tonight. So the fruition of a dream. But the Flyers also today made a hiring of an assistant coach, John Torchetti, who played. Was a player, played mostly played 10 games in the AHL, but mostly played in the East Coast League and the ACHL, but has been coaching at various stops at various levels, Bry, since 93, 94. Was in the NHL as an assistant with the Tampa Bay Lightning, Florida Panthers, the Blackhawks, also in Detroit most recently, Minnesota as well, where he actually took over for Mike Yeo when he was relieved of his duties. And it's in addition to the Flyers bench that they've been trying to fill for a while, but was probably a little bit more difficult. I know Chuck Fletcher spoke about it today, saying part of the equation was, and the delay was the team's COVID issues. But they finally get John Torchetti in here for the remainder of the season.
Yeah, there was that, and I think he might have tested positive at one point too. It was a weird time to try to bring somebody in during that holiday break. Mike Yeo talked a little bit about it today. A lot of people don't realize, and it's funny, even sometimes we in the sport on a day-to-day basis, we forget the scope of what a coaching staff has to do. They don't just show up at practice and then run practice and then go home and then show up at the game and run the game. I mean, there's a lot going on in terms of preparation. There's video work, which is done both, from really three ways: from a strategy standpoint, from pre-scouting the other team, and then you're looking at video of your own team. You're doing video sessions with the full group, and then you're doing individual video too. Basically the coaching staff will try to meet individually with just about every player on the roster at least every couple of days. And so when you have all that going on, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of work there. The Flyers have had three assistant coaches. So they've had a 4-man coaching staff for I don't know. I mean, it's been maybe close to 10 years now. They used to just have 2 assistants on the bench with the head coach, and then you started having a 4th assistant that was upstairs. So, that's been going on for a long time. So they were already down 1 coach, and then COVID hit, and so every now and then, Nick Schultz was out of commission for a while because he was in protocol, and then I don't know about Darrell Williams, but I wouldn't be surprised if the same thing happened to him. And then, when that happens, all of a sudden you've got, two and then maybe one guy trying to do all this work, and it just gets pretty grinding. So, he's in there. He's in there not just as a guy to stand behind the bench and do things, but he's also in there as another individual to take on all this work. And it's a good situation for everybody involved. Mike was talking with folks before the game saying how well he knows him. They've worked together before. He's got head coaching experience in the National Hockey League. He's won a Stanley Cup. I know him from, of all things, the old International Hockey League, the Fort Wayne Comets. He was coaching there in the late 90s. He has coached at every level of the game. He's coached in the Continental Hockey League. So he's got, a ton of knowledge and a ton of experience, and, may even bring some new ideas to the table as far as how the Flyers can turn things around here.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. If a look can earn you a win, yeah. I mean, he has got a
I've never seen him in person, but I don't know if he looks like that in person or not. Wow.
I mean, if I see him, I'm not saying hi. I'm saying see you later. He has got a scowl on him. A real serious look. All the pictures you see of him online. He's a Boston guy, 57 years of age. And, I mean, he looks like a cop. You know what I mean? Like the prototype of a mean-looking cop.
It's almost like it's a movie character.
Yeah, like a Harvey Keitel type thing going on.
Like if it was another angry Tom Hanks character or something like that. It's like I don't know. It's hard to put a finger on. Like I said, I've heard the name before, but I've never actually met him or anything like that. But it looks like the kind of guy who's, you don't want to bring his daughter home late on a date. That's for sure.
Yeah, there he is. I mean, that is a scowl right there. He that's a tough stare, man. I don't want to be knocking on his door if he had a daughter, no doubt.
Well,
let's take that out. There we go.
Thanks.
So he's added to the bench for the Flyers, another assistant, and we'll see. They need to get a win tonight. Tough spot here tonight as well, facing an Islander team that's been doing much better. 3 games in 4 days for the Flyers. Going to be some tired legs out there. Martin Jones is going for them tonight. He's going to have to be, me, Brian, I said this on Flyers Daily, like the first 10 minutes of this game, the Islanders know there's blood in the water, right? And they got a fragile team coming in, and they're going to want to strike early. So Martin Jones is going to have to be a factor here early in the game.
Yeah, he'll need to basically get off to a better start than he did the other night, obviously, and I think he probably will. He's when you're in a situation like this where your things aren't going right offensively, maybe defensively. Sometimes you really want to see your goaltender maybe be your best player, or at least one of your best players. So he is going to be tasked with that tonight, definitely. It's kind of necessary for him to just keep things calm back there and kind of figure out a way to just establish.
Oh, shoot. I just lost Brian. All right, we're going to have Brian log back in. Let me text him. Oh, it's never easy. Log back in. There we go. Oh, wrong guy. Oh, wrong Brian. Oh, sorry. I got to do that to Brian Smith. We can log back in. All right. There he is. We got Smitty back.
Absolutely no idea.
There. Okay, so we're doing our radio audience here in just a moment.
The other cool thing, by the way, before we hop on the radio, TV guys are on the road again for the first time in almost 2 years.
Since that, I guess the road would be. I mean, they went on the road, I guess, for that Florida trip, but didn't broadcast a game.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Well, March 19th.
Yes.
2020.
That trip, yes, they did. Yeah. So
the road game, because the last game the Flyers played was at home against Boston. So I don't know what the last road game was, but yeah, it's good to see JJ and Jonesy back. on the road in New York tonight, and that certainly is a sign that things are moving in the right direction.
Nature is healing.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's good to see what's kind of happening with cases and stuff. And boy, you don't see the lists coming out of players day in and day out
Right. Yeah,
going into protocol anymore.
that's more encouraging from a hockey standpoint. Obviously, we're a very small subsection of the world, but it's good from a NHL standpoint to see that.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna join our radio audience. All right, it's just about time for Philadelphia Flyers hockey. It's the Flyers and the Islanders tonight. And boy, I can't think of a better time other than about 8 games ago to stop the bleeding for the Flyers and get a win tonight, because I know everybody is on edge and not happy. 12, and the Flyers do not want to set that franchise mark tonight on a night when Keith Yandel will break the consecutive games played streak, Brian.
It is kind of odd and kind of bizarre that these two records are kind of intertwined with each other right now, is it not? What are the odds? Keith Yandel will step into history tonight with his first step on the ice, and the Flyers are again trying to make sure that they're at least a footnote along with another team in their history back in the late 90s, as opposed to having this all to themselves tonight. It has been a very, very strange run. It has been one that is not without its opportunities for explanation. I mean, first it was the COVID run, and now the Flyers are literally missing 9 players out of their lineup, 8 if you don't count Sam Moran. But it's still a huge number, missing some very, very high-end talent, and they're just looking for a way to play themselves out of it. And it's kind of like a scoring slump for an individual player, just for the whole team. It feels like once they get it right, once they figure it out and they win a game, that they're going to start coming regularly. But right now they just got to figure out how to get back onto the winning side of things.
Yeah, and that's imperative, and just to avoid those lapses and have them be so costly. Ironically enough, Bri, this Islander team had an 11-game losing streak earlier this season. Now, they were on the road for their first 13 games, and it looks like about half of them came on the road. They lost 4 of them straight came on the road, and then they returned home to their new building, and they couldn't get a win there. They lost 5 straight at home. And then they were supposed to play the Flyers on November 30th. That was postponed. Then they lost 3 more after that. And they've been an up-and-down team, but they're playing a lot better to late. 7-2-1 in their last 10. So you got an Islander team right now that's saying, okay, we got a lot of games in hand, and we got some work to do, but we're a team that's gone to the conference final the last 2 years. They're going to look to continue this tonight against the Flyers and take advantage of an inferior opponent.
Yeah, they've been through this already once this year, and so they kind of know what it's like to be on the other side, and so they have an idea that the Flyers are in a tough spot right now, and they want to take advantage of it. This is an Islanders team that, even though you look at them in the standings and they're all the way down there with the Flyers, they're actually tied in points. They have 8 games in hand right now on the Flyers, and basically everybody in front of them, because they had a COVID issue. Then they were supposed to go out west, and then those games all got postponed because you can't have fans in most of Canada right now, and there are a couple other issues on that end. So they have a lot of runway to catch up, and they're not as bad a team as it looks like when you just look at the standings.
Absolutely. And, a team that's gone to the conference final the last 2 years, and there's been very little turnover there. They didn't have monumental losses of talent in the offseason. And it's weird because you look at the Islanders and, you would think that, a team of that level that went to back-to-back conference finals would have probably a minimum of at least 1 point per game player. But that's not the case. For the Islanders right now, leading them in points is Matthew Barzal. He's got 24, 7 of which are goals, 17 assists in 31 games. And he's leading the way to the second-place guy in Josh Bailey, which tells you one thing, that they're a balanced team that can get it from a lot of different areas, as we saw in some previous games with Anthony Beauvillier, Josh Bailey. They got Brock Nelson. Anders Lee's another good player. So they can spread their scoring around. Not to mention guys like J.G. Pageau are having really down seasons.
Yeah, you've got 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 guys on this team in double-digit points right now. Just for context, and again, the Flyers have a lot of guys out of the lineup. They have a lot of guys that have not played a ton of games, but the Flyers only have 6 folks in double-digit scoring. So yeah, they definitely have it spread out quite a bit. They're it's interesting. Like a couple of teams the Flyers have played lately, their goal scorers have been kind of top-heavy, but this is a more distributed team here. And again, it's a team that went through a 13-game road trip to start the season, came back home and started playing in a new building. Took a little while to get used to that. So again, they're going to have a good second half here, which they're halfway point hasn't come yet. But they're going to have a good spring, and I think they're going to be right there when playoff time rolls around and be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, if they can get back into that wild card mix, they could be a team coming in hot, playing intense hockey, which tends to help against teams that feel push in their position. Leading the Flyers in points is Claude Giroux, 33, and Cam Atkinson's got 31. 14 goals for Giroux, 15 goals for Atkinson. They need to find goals in this game tonight. That's been the issue. The only goal they got the other night was that Provorov goal off the skate of John Klingberg. So going to have to put, Barry Trotz's team's very structured. So they're going to have to put a lot of pressure on the goaltenders and a lot of traffic down there, do the right things if they're going to expect to get some goals and get a win and end this losing skid. But stay tuned. Tim Saunders, Steve Coates, they're coming to you live to bring the countdown to face-off and all the first period action between the Flyers and Islanders on a historical night when Keith Yandel will break the consecutive games played record right here on the BetRivers.com Flyers Broadcast Network. All right. All right, streamers. See ya.